a screenshot or a telephone with the camera. And if you don't, then you can, I'll leave this up as long as you need it. But I think you need this information. Okay. What?
Did you fire your interpreter?
Oh, I will fire him if he doesn't get busy here.
So, magsoon kita karon sa sa world history. Kaya di mo kabalo kahanapin ang Pilipay, di mo kabalo hanapin pagipan ng mga lugar sa Biblia para atong masabtan kung sa ahato sila bilang magkaroon ko istorya at kalibutan. World history. Pwede nyo na kopyahon, may mga cellphone, pwede nyo picturean,
Sorry. Okay, go to Daniel chapter 6, Daniel chapter 2, sorry, Daniel 2. Can I use part of this? Just a little bit. Daniel chapter 2. I hope you can see that sufficiently, but right there is 606 BC Babylon. Now, BC means before the cross. Everything here, from here on, would be AD, and that doesn't mean after death. It means Anno Domini, the year of our Lord. So we count AD from the last of BC. We are in AD 2025.
Ang meaning sa BC, before computer.
Now we're going to go way back 100 years BC, 330 years BC. We're going to go back further to 532 BC, and then all the way back to 606 BC and the kingdom of Babylon.
So BC before Christ na ha. Ang AD after death.
That means that's 600 years, 606 years before Jesus Christ was born. BC, before the cross. Now, Daniel predicted all of this. We are after this. We're over here. But Daniel predicted all four of these kingdoms many years before they happened. How does that happen? Well, Daniel was inspired by God. And God gave him what he should write down, and he obeyed. And he prophesied or predicted these kingdoms. Go ahead.
So tanawa na 600 BC taman dia sa 100 BC gitagna na nadaan ni Daniel. Giunsa man na ni Daniel? Gi-inspire siya sa Ginoo unsay iyang isulat. Mauna nga nakahimo siya nga iya na nang gipanagna o iya na nang gipropesya tanan. Ang Ginoo mo'y nagtabang kang Daniel.
Now, Daniel was part of the captivity, so Daniel lived back here with Nebuchadnezzar. And Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, and he couldn't figure it out, and none of his wise men could figure it out. So he was going to kill them all. Nice guy. And Daniel said, hey, wait just a second. God can reveal this to me. I believe I can help you out along with all the stupid wise men.
Sa dihang gadamgo si Nebuchadnezzar, kaapil man si Daniel atong nanga-exile sa Babylon, apil man siya dito, nagdamgo si Nebuchadnezzar nga wala gyoy makatagna sa tanan niyang mananagna. So walay nakatagna. Maunang si Daniel maoy isa nga nagingon, sulti ko unsay meaning ana. Ako'y maka-istorya. So
he prayed, and God revealed it to him. And I want you to read Daniel chapter 2 and verse 36. There's a lot in Daniel, and we'll go through it verse by verse eventually. But I'm trying to show you something on world history tonight. So look in verse 36, Daniel chapter 2. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of heaven hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art the head of gold. Daniel is looking at a huge image, and it's got a head of gold, and it'll tell you the rest in just a minute. But Nebuchadnezzar couldn't figure out what this dream was all about. So Daniel said, you're this head of gold, and it's solid gold, and your kingdom is going to be the strongest and the finest kingdom in the world. And then Daniel said, and after thee, okay, here's Nebuchadnezzar, here's 606 BC. The Jews went into captivity under Nebuchadnezzar. They were there, according to Jeremiah, predicted they would be there 70 years. And Nebuchadnezzar was the one, I hope you're taking notes, Nebuchadnezzar was the one that ruined the temple. Now, Daniel was part of all of that. He didn't ruin the temple, but he watched it happen. And then he was taken into captivity. Now, that's the first kingdom, the kingdom of solid gold in Daniel. And Daniel said, after that, there's going to come another kingdom. Let's read about it in verse 39. And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee. In other words, not as good, not as strong, not as rich. Inferior, less glorious than Nebuchadnezzar's. And he said, after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass. What would you rather have, brass or gold?
Gold.
Of course, give me gold. So this is still inferior. The third kingdom, which is this. Now, this is Babylon, this is Persia. This is the third kingdom, Greece, and this is the last kingdom, Rome. Now, the third kingdom, which is Greece, look at it in verse 39. And another third kingdom of brass which shall bear rule over all the earth. These are all world empires. They own the whole world. Important. And this is established in history. We're not talking just Bible. You don't have my permission, but if you did go to a university here in town and you studied world history, then you would get the same thing except for Daniel. You wouldn't get that. Now, the third kingdom is Greece. You got Babylon, Persia, Greece. Here's how that kingdom is going to be. Third kingdom, middle of verse 39, of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom, which is Rome. The fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all things, shall it break in pieces and bruise. Okay, those are the four kingdoms that Daniel predicted and prophesied in the year 606 BC. Daniel died in here somewhere. We don't know the year that Daniel died, but here's 532, and Daniel died somewhere between 606 BC and 532 BC. So he didn't get to see Greece or Rome, but it happened exactly as Daniel described. Now, the Babylonian kingdom, you can still go and fly to Iran and go to Babylon. All you will see are ruins that's left. Pieces. I'll show you ruins in just a moment. But that's what's left of Babylon. Persia is still functioning. I'm sorry, Riz, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
It's okay, ma'am.
Take as much time as you need.
Enthusiastic college professor.
It's okay. Go ahead, sir. So atong nahinumduman, atong nakitaan, hinumduman inyong nakatunan. Nga gikan sa 606 BC mao nay gipanagna ni Daniel hangtod taman alang 100 BC. Galing lang kay wala man namatay man si Daniel between anang 606 ug 532, so wala na niya makitaan. Wala niya masaksihan kanang panahon sa Greece ug sa Rome. Kan namatay man siya. So kanang number 1, gold, ikaduha, brass, sunod, iron, o sakto ba to? Mali ito. Gold, silver, brass, o iron. Bright kini ang mga estudyante. So kana tanan nga gipanagna na nadaan ni Daniel. Giun sa ganin niya pagtagna, gi-inspire siya sa Ginoo para ang isulat kana tanan o nangahitabo gid na tanan.
Now, that's entirely my fault that I didn't let him interpret. I'm in a different location and I'm not feeling the greatest tonight. So it wasn't Riz's fault. It was my fault. Okay. The Persian Empire in the year 532, they ruled the world. Now, it's very interesting that Daniel led Nebuchadnezzar to the Lord. You'll see Nebuchadnezzar in heaven. He also led Cyrus to the Lord. I believe you'll see Cyrus. And it was because of Daniel's witness that Cyrus made a decree. He's king of the world, you understand. And in Ezra chapter 1, and also the last chapter in Chronicles, he makes that decree to free all the Jews out of captivity.
So si Daniel, iyang gi-led, iyang dala si Nebuchadnezzar o si King Cyrus sa Ginoo. Siya mo hinungdan nganong makita ni mo na sila sa langit. So si Cyrus pod maoy kay na kumbinsi man siya ni Daniel, tuo man siya ni Daniel, gumikan sa mga ipanghimo ni Daniel, so naluwas siya. Iya gahimo siya decree o balaod nga buhian ang tanang mga Hudiyo. Makit-an mo na siya diha sa Ezra o sa Chronicles, last part. Siya mo hinungdan nganong gipang buhian, gipabalik sa Israel ang mga Jew nga gipang dala sa Babylon.
Now, under the Persian Empire, Cyrus, being led to the Lord by Daniel, made a decree to free all the Jews.
Dumdumin nyo na nga kanang kada part diha mao na mga world mura nag-Amerika ha ug sa karon pa mga world leader na world mga nasud na nga mao'y pinakagamhanan anang mga panahon na. So,
and you can blame that on Daniel. Once again, Daniel did a great thing. He was a tremendous witness to kings.
Si Daniel tud mao'y pinaka nga adala nila kanang mga haria sa Ginoo.
Now Cyrus was the one that got them out of captivity, and he sent them back to Jerusalem to build the second temple.
Si Cyrus mo'y nagbuhi sa tanang mga Hudiyo ug siya po'y nahinungdan nganong nahimo ang ikaduha nga templo nga giguba ni Nebuchadnezzar, iyang gipahimo, gipa-repair og gutro.
And Ezra was the one that built the temple, and Nehemiah was the one that built the wall around Jerusalem in the year 532.
Si Ezra maoy naghimo o nag-rebuild sa temple. Si Nehemiah maoy naghimo sa wall sa katungkural tibok panahon anang 532 BC.
Now, the third kingdom is Greece, and they took over the world from Persia. Quite a story how they overthrew the Persian Empire.
Ang ikatulo nga world leader sa nga nasod mao ang Greece. Ilang napildi ang taga Persia mga Muslim na, o patsada ka na nimo kung mahibawaan nimo ng mga istoryana, tsada ka na.
Now, the man that did that, the king of the world at that time, was Alexander the Great.
Ang hari-hari anang sa Greece una, mao si Alexander the Great.
Now, if Daniel had been alive, look at the difference between the dates here. Daniel would have been pretty old. But Daniel probably would have tried to lead Alexander the Great to the Lord.
Kung buhi pa unta si Daniel, basig maapil po na niya kadala sa Ginoo na si Alexander.
But, of course, he wasn't alive, and the Greek Empire spread all over the world. And what's important about that is the language of Greek was spread all over the world.
Wala, namatay naman si Daniel, so, na niya masaksihan, pero kung nakasaksi pa siya, kaning Greece maoy pinakakusog, maoy pinakasikat nga ang ilang sinultihan, ilang language, may kaylap sa tibuok kalibutan. Daghang makahibalo og Greek.
Now, Alexander the Great was a great warrior, and he was a great leader, and good men, or good warriors anyway, followed him, and they conquered the world under Alexander the Great.
Si Alexander pinaka bantugan nga sundalo o manggigira. Ilang gi-conquer, ilang gibuntog ang tibuok kalibutan. Ug daghan kayong mga general na musunod sa iyaha. Daghang mituo sa iyaha.
Now that was in 330 BC. That means 330 years before Jesus Christ.
Nahitabo na 330 BC sa wala pa natao si Kristo.
Now Alexander the Great had a father, like most of us. And his father's name was Philip. Right there.
Ginganlan siya og the Great, ginganlan po siya Philip.
And Philip means a lover of horses.
Ang iyang papa dahito si Philip. No, si Philip, ang iyang papa, maoy ganahan kay mga kabayo.
And they named, here we go, we're coming all the way around now. You remember Philippi? Well, they named that city after Alexander the Great's father, Philippi, a lover of horses.
So, ang papa ni Alexander nga gingandan og Philip nga nahigugmag daghan kay mga kabayo, ganahan gyud kay siya kabayo. So ang isa sa lugar sa Greece ginganlan og Philippi.
Now Alexander the Great had 4 great generals under him, and they were very powerful men, and their power bumped up against each other pretty bad, so they broke up the kingdom, and they each took 1/4 of the kingdom of Greece, and they made themselves ruler over that part of the world.
Si Alexander the Great na upat ka buok general. Upat ka general, daw bi pagkamatay ni Alexander kay nag-away man na sila. Di naman sila magkasinabot. So gibahin-bahin nila kaupat ang Greece. Unya gaiyahay sila og pangmuno dito.
But the next kingdom, Rome, didn't come into power until 100 BC. That's 100 years before Jesus Christ.
Ang misunod nga gingharian o ang Rome, pero wala na nahimugso, wala na sila misikat sa wala pa 100 years before kang Kristo.
Now this is a great deal of information on these 4 kingdoms, but I'm doing you a big favor and boiling it all down to where you can see it spread before you.
So, mao ni ang upat ka mga klaseng gingharian nga pangtagaan tamong pabor para inyong mahibaw-an aron inyong matagsa makit-an og unsa diay ang istorya diha sa atong gipangbasa sa Biblia.
Now Rome took power of the world in 100 BC. The conqueror's name was Julius Caesar, right there.
Ang Rome iyang gibuntog ang tibuok kalibutan, ang naghari mao si Julius Caesar.
And Julius Caesar put something into his government that had never been done before, and that's crucifixion. In other words, if you're found guilty of a capital crime, that is, you murdered somebody or you tried to overthrow the government, if you were guilty of a capital crime, the way they put you to death was crucifixion. Now, you need to know that, and I'll tell you why.
Ang naghari sa Rome, ang mao si Julius Caesar. Unya, kay siya mao'y hinungdan nga kung makasala ka og dagko kay nga sala, pananglitan, ipatay ka, or imong ipalagpot ang gobyerno, moribilde ka. Naghimo siya capital punishment nga ginganlan og crucifixion. Kanang ilansang ka, ibitay ka sa cross kung makitaan ka nga guilty ka nga ikaw gyud naghimo anang salaa. So siya maoy unag himo ga imbento anang nga unsaon ka pagpatay, pagsilot nga mamatay.
What does that mean? That means that nobody before the kingdom of Rome was ever punished for a capital crime by the state by the way of crucifixion. Persia didn't do it, Greece didn't do it, only Rome, and Rome came into power at 100 years before Jesus Christ. Why is that important?
Wala sukad na hitabo nga dunay nag-punish nga ilantang ka sa cross. Si Julius Caesar gyud mo'y nag-imbento ana. Nagsugod na 100 BC. So nganong importante man na kay mao na hinungdan.
Because if you get into a discussion with somebody that doesn't separate and correctly divide the Bible, which is a lot of people, they will argue with you that the people of the Old Testament got saved the same way we get saved, only the people of the Old Testament looked forward to the cross, and the people now look back to the cross. Now don't swallow yet, because we're not finished.
Daghan kang madunggan mo nang kinahanglan nga ato ginang mahibaw-an kada isa ana nga mga istorya. Kay ngano naa kay madunggan nga mo istorya nga ang uban nga mga tao kuno sa Old Testament nagtan-aw sa cross. Ang naapod sa New Testament moingon pod nga mo tan-aw balik sa cross. Ayaw mo tuwa na.
There's an awful lot of people that believe that. And even if you went to a Bible college, there are many Bible colleges that teach in the Old Testament they got saved by looking forward to the cross. And in the New Testament times, when we live in it, we look back to the cross. That's our salvation. Not true.
Maskin sa uban nga mga Bible school nagtudlo nga ang kaluwasan kuno sa Old Testament kinahanglan nga motan-aw diha sa unahan sa cross. Kanus sanang kagtugod og Old Testament gikan kang Moses padulong diha sa Rome ilalo ka nang nakit-an. Mao do nay kaluwasan. Og ang New Testament pod naluwas pod sa dihang milingi sa cross. Dili tinuod. Nakay matagbuan na nga kadugayan nimo.
Ask yourself, how could a person way back here, or even before that, how could they look forward to the cross, crucifixion, when it wasn't even invented until 100 years before Jesus Christ?
So unsaon nimo pagsulti, giunsa nila nganong nga bright kay sila nga wala may crucifixion hangtod nga ang Rome nay naghari. Wala may crucifixion panahon sa Greek, panahon sa Persia, panahon sa Babylon, panahon ni Moses, panahon sa wala. Nya giunsa na pagsulti nganong mo look forward sa cross. So sayop dili tinuod.
All right, you guys take this board and put it off to the side. And if you still need to copy it, it'll be there after class. Philippi. Now, it would be embarrassing if you claimed to be a graduate of Bible college and you didn't know why they named it Philippi or any of that history of the world. It would be embarrassing to me, really. So now you are without excuse.
So makaulaw kayo kung graduate ka og Bible school, unya di ka kahibalo nganong gitawag sa nga Pilipay sa Greek aha na gikan nganong naunsa na sa Greece nganong nay na Pilipay. Maskin sa kuha makaulaw nya karon di na gyud mo malawan ana kay makatubag naman mo.
Now what we're going to do is zoom forward all the way to 2000 and a little beyond, and we're going to show you Philippi today.
Atong Pilipay nga atong naisgutan dito nga 100 BC aya panahimo kay kinsa ganito papa ni Alexander the Great mahilig og horse, so naay nahitabo nga Pilipay. Og karon nga tuig gikan sa 100 BC atong makita unsa nay dagway sa Pilipay karon.
Now you can still go to Philippi if you're a tourist in that section of the world.
Kung gusto ka magturista, gusto ka mulaag sa Pilipay, imo nang maadtuan karon sa Kailag Silhig.
And I did. So I'm going to give you some glimpses, but as you can see, Philippi is ruined. So they call this stuff, these bricks laying around, they call it ruins. They actually do. This is the ruins of Philippi.
Maunay mga kay nabungkag man ang Pilipay. Ug nganong nabungkag, mao nay makita nimo dito karon. Ang Pilipay.
Ray, come here and show me how I can just go from one to another. I can't see it. Where is it?
You can do it here in the keyboard. So keyboard. You don't have keyboard.
Okay, next. All right. Thank you, Pastor Ray. Okay. Now, this is actually Thessalonica, and we'll study that too. This is all Thessalonica. This is Philippi, and I want you to go to Acts chapter 16. Acts 16. Acts 16, verse 1. Then came he to Derbe. Let's go.
Lystra.
Oh, I know. Remember, look in verse 7. Paul was headed toward Bithynia, and God stopped him and forbade him to preach the gospel going that direction.
Atong mahimduman nga si Paul gusto siya moadto sa Misya. Unya giingnan siya nga ayaw, giingnan siya sa Ginoo nga ayaw padayon didto. Diha ra kataman, ayaw glahos.
Now, read in verse 7. After they were come to Mysia, they essayed to go into Bithynia. If you have your map, you can look at that. We've studied that last week. I'm not sure it'll come up in time for this week. And verse 8, and they passing by Mysia, came down to Troas, and a vision appeared to Paul in the night. There stood a man of Macedonia and prayed him, saying, this is in a vision, come over into Macedonia and help us. So, this is called the Macedonian call, and we studied this last week. It'll take just a minute here. Macedonia is just above Greece.
Ang Macedonia nasa ibabaw sa Greece. So giingnan to si Paul nga maadto siya sa Asia, Asia to yung atuan na gipugan siya sa Ginoo. Nga dili ipadayon didto. Ya, naadal nag samtang padung na sa didto na ay nanawag niya nga taga Macedonia nga miingon nga Paul tabangi mi dinhi ani diri sa Macedonia. Ang Macedonia na sa ibabaw sa Greece.
Okay, here we go. Paul's second missionary journey. Okay, here's Mysia, and they came to Troas, right here, and that's where Paul, sounds like a test question to me, that's where Paul had his vision and his Macedonian call. Once again, you go across here to Macedonia, right there. And Greece is right here. But the time, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
So naay mi tao nga miingon kang Paul nga tabangi mi diri sa Macedonia mo nang gitawag kana og Macedonian call nga gitawag siya. So ibabaw ng Macedonia sa Greece kay kung itudlo na siya sa ibabaw sa mapa.
At the time of the Grecian Empire, which we just studied, the Grecian Empire was spread all on both sides of the Great Sea, which is the Mediterranean. They ruled this part of the world too, and they ruled in Western Europe. But That's a different subject. Okay, now Paul gets his Macedonian call and comes over to Macedonia. So fill that in. Then look in verse 10, and after he had seen the vision, immediately we endeavored to go into Macedonia, assuredly gathering that the Lord had called us for to preach the gospel unto them. All right. We talked about the callings of God last week. I told you about my calling to the Philippines.
Ato ning gitawag nga kanang tinawag. Gitawag natog tinawag. Kay gitawag man. So akong gibati nga ako pod gitawag dinhi sa Pilipinas, mao nang naabot ko dinhi. Pareha ni Paul gitawag padulong sa Macedonia.
So Paul was headed toward Bithynia, right here, evidently with the idea of going this way, which is east. God stopped him there, and he said, "Go west, young man." So he had the Macedonian vision and went to Macedonia and found himself in verse 11, "Therefore, looking from Troas, we came with a straight course." Therefore, loosing from Troas, we came with a straight course to Samothracia, and the next day to Neapolis. Here's Neapolis right here. And Philippi is next door to Neapolis. Okay, so this is where Paul is right now. Go ahead.
So imbis si Paul, ang plano yun ni Paul moadto dito sa Bithynia nga sa east ilang plano nga moadto. Pero kay gipugnan man siya sa Ginoo nga kinahanglan moadto siya sa west Macedonia, moadto nga dito na sa padulong. So, sa atong ipang tudlo, mao na diya itong mga lugar nga gisgutan diya sa atong gibasa.
Now Paul's mindset on the ministry was very close to mine. Life is ministry, ministry is life. And that verse that we showed you last week, it said, "And there they preached the gospel." Well, that's good. I mean, you could preach on that forever, guys. Easy preaching. And there they preached the gospel. So, I could apply that to myself. I could say I went to Manila, and there I preached the gospel.
Para sa kang Paul nga ang iyag yung ministry iyang gikinabuhi. So ang kinabuhi pod ministry gina. So ako po nang gi-apply sa kong kagalingon nga bisig asa ko magwali ko sa mayong balita. So pagsasama ng moadto kog Manila, magwali ko dito sa pulong sa Ginoo.
I could say I went to Greece. I went to Athens. I went to Mars Hill, and there I preached the gospel.
So nakaadto ko Greece, nakaadto ko saka ko sa Mars Hill, ug makaingon ko nga ning adto ko anang mga lugara ug nagwali sa maayong balita.
I went to Ireland. I went to Romania. I went to Germany. I went to France. I went to Italy. And there I preached the gospel.
Ngadto kog Italia, Romania, sa atong pangpamalugara og nagmoingon ko nga nagwali ko anang mga lugara.
With me, I can't figure out why you would go somewhere if you don't take that opportunity to preach. And that's the way I think. And I think it's Bible. I really do.
So matingala ko kung kamo makaadto mo laing mga lugar nya di mo makawali, ako na ginanggihuna-huna na kung asa ko maabot, asa ko makaadto, muwali ko sa pulong sa Ginoo sa mayong balita.
Now look in verse 13, chapter 16, verse 13. On the Sabbath day, we went out of the city by a riverside where prayer was wont to be made, and we sat down and spake unto the women which resorted thither. Here we are at that river. As far as we could figure out, this is the same river. Now, there weren't any ladies there at this time. Oh. Huh. Okay, this is my friend that I traveled with. This is Brent Logan, and he was my partner in Romania for 7+ years. I actually taught him in his first year of Bible college many years ago. He's a close friend. I talked to him 3 days ago. So that's Brent Logan, but he's at that river. Go ahead.
Kanang picturean dia ako ng amigo nga si Brent Logan. Akong first year na siya, ako'y maestro niya o dito na siya sa Romania, ako siyang giubanan, nagkauban mi dito, siya maoy missionary ko siyang gikuyugan.
Now you can't read it because it's in Greek, but look at that. That's Philippi, and that was a board at the entrance to Philippi, and it told you about it if you could read that. This is the ruins of Philippi, same place, named after Philip, Alexander the Great's father, a lover of horses. These are the ruins. Obviously, this was an arch, came all the way up and came down on this side. Oops. Ruins of Philippi. More ruins. Now, Paul, when he was here, he preached on the street and they put him in jail. And we're walking toward what's left of that jail.
Muna na ihulagway sa Pilipay karon kawa na nagpuyo. Munang murag biyaan na kay gibungkag man. So mo na nangabilin. So mo si Paul atong mga dalana nagwalay si Paul dito o dito po siya na preso.
And even though these are ruins, you can see where it was built very beautifully with these small arches here, and you join them together to make the city of Philippi.
So, mga syudad sa Pilipay, patsada kay na sa una, pero wala naman, gibiyaan naman. So, napangit na, mo na nibilin karon. Wa na gapuyo diya.
Now this is the jail where the jailer was led to the Lord, and Paul spent at least one night here and was in stocks. That is a piece of wood that has a board here with two holes in it, and you put your arms and they fasten them, and it has a board on the bottom. Put your feet in there, your ankles, and it's made to be uncomfortable, and they succeeded.
Mao na ang prisuhan nilang Paul. Kunya naanay gitawag og stockade man na sa nabantayan sa una. Og prison ka din ha, hiktan imong mga kamot, imong tiil na ay nakalubog og tubig taman sa kaning kiting. Ay tawag na. Ankle. So inana ka kung prisuhon ka sa unang panahon.
I wanted you to see an amphitheater here in Philippi, but I can't seem to locate it. Here it is. Okay. Now people came here and sat on these seats and listened to plays and dramas and musicals.
Stockade.
And they also listened to Paul preach. Now this is built in such a way, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mao nay stockade. So, mao nay amphitheater sa una kanang pasalida dia. Nagwali si Paul diha anang iyang gitudlo.
Now, I could stand about here and I could speak in this tone of voice, of course without a microphone, and they could hear me perfectly all the way up here. And it was built that way. Go ahead.
Nagwali ko dinha sa aning diri ra dapit ang araw kanang diri pa dapit sa araw unya mo istorya siya normal lang na pagkaistoryaha pero madungog dito sa pinakatumoy inana ang amphitheater sa una istorya ra kag normal diha kasakuan maabot dito ang imong tingog madunggan walay microphone ay walay speakeray.
Interesting structure there. I don't really know what it is, but it's ruined, whatever it is.
Kana anay nabiling nabungkag ambot unsa ka na wa kabalo.
But now you've seen that river where Lydia was led to the Lord. Look in verse 14. And a certain woman named Lydia, a seller of purple of the city of Thyatira, which worshipped God, heard us. Now, right here is the river, and he probably preached here. There's a small amphitheater here, but the big one is not very far in this direction over here. I preached there. I preached here. There wasn't very many people, but I preached the gospel there. Amen. Now, Lydia in verse 14 was a seller of purple. That means that she made cloth and dyed it purple. And that was probably the most expensive cloth that anybody could buy, because it was a very difficult job to dye it so that it didn't fade fast.
Si Lydia, na naisgutan diri sa verse 14, na maligya og purple, meaning na maligya siya og kanang panapton nga ang color purple. Mahal kay na, kay lisod kayo na buhaton ng panahon na.
So Lydia sold purple cloth. That's the way she made her living. And then when she got saved, look in verse 14. And a certain woman named Lydia, seller of purple in the city of Thyatira, which worshipped God, heard us, whose heart the Lord opened, that she attended unto the things which were spoken of Paul. And when she was baptized, probably right here, and when she was baptized, and her household, she besought us, saying, If ye have judged me to be faithful to the Lord, come into my house and abide there. And she constrained them. Come on, you guys, come on, I mean it. Come, I've got a meal for you. She constrained them. Now, Paul, after this, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Si Lydia, sa diyang dalawas, gibaptizan ana nga river, nga diyaw nasa screen. Unya, iyang nadunggan nga nasang Paul, iyang gipugos. Giimbitar niya, giguyod niya, gipugos niya, nga maadto silang balay, nga iya laging pakanon.
Now, I want to just run through these Thessalonica pictures, because look here on the map. Here is Philippi right here, and Thessalonica is right here. Maybe half a day's walk, just a guess. But then they went to Thessalonica. Now we're going to go to Thessalonica, so that I don't have to bring this up again next week. That is the city, 2 million, of Thessalonica. I went there, I preached there, I preached in the town square.
Maot na ang Thessalonica, gusto lang ako ipakita sa inyo para di nato masigutan sunod simana. O nakaanak ko din ha, o nagwali ko din ha.
Ruins of Thessalonica. This is my friend, Brent, walking down the street in Thessalonica. He and James Knox were successful in starting a New Testament local church in this city about 10 years ago, and it's still operating.
Siya ug si James Knox nakahimo dia og simbahan pulo na ka tuig ang miagi og karon na alang gihapon. Salamat sa Ginoo.
These are scenes of Thessalonica. Now, when he and I first arrived, we preached downtown. It was nighttime. This is him preaching. I preached before him, but he didn't have a camera available at that time. And I said, Brent, you go ahead and preach. And he said, no, man, you're the street preacher, so if the cops come, you go to... We didn't know what was going to happen. So we preached simply in order to say we preached the gospel there in Thessalonica. And I believe he at least went through the motions, there you go, of leading somebody to the Lord on that evening.
Muna si Brent, Logan, nagkaabot mi diya sa Thessalonica, gabi na, nagwalay mi, wala man siya picture na ko, kaya wala man siya kamera, so ako rin nagsigig hulagway niya.
They now are starting a church in Corinth, and that will be beginning next week. We'll study Corinth, and they're starting a church there now. So
Si Brent, karon tuwa na siya sa Corinth, o maghisigutan na ito na sa simana ang mahitungod sa Corinto.
okay. All right, let's dismiss in prayer. Good to see you, Vaughn. Please dismiss us in prayer.
Amen.
Amen.